The judges insist that their work stoppage when the courts were shut down was not a protest. And I suppose that is a little bit of high diplomacy. Call it by whatever name you wish. What happened when judges refused to take the bench in Jamaica recently was something absolutely unprecedented, but something of enormous significance, because the Jamaican Constitution, which sought to achieve the separation between the judicial and the executive functions of the state, is at risk of being breached. And it is at risk of being breached because the Prime Minister, in his wisdom, created what is best described as an oxymoron with an acting Chief Justice. Now, what is interesting about the notion of the Governor General appointing Bryan Sykes as Chief Justice until further advised, to use the language of the statement by the Attorney General, is that it implies somebody being in a position to review the actions of the judge sitting as Chief Justice, and then to the extent that those actions win the approval or otherwise of that person assessing, the Chief Justice may be allowed to continue or not. Now, I'm curious about the coincidence that the person the Prime Minister is asking to perform up to his satisfaction has a matter about which he ought by now to have handed down his ruling. And if the judge rules in a particular way, it would favor the PNP. And if he rules in another way in that St. Thomas matter, it will favor the JLP. Is that what the Prime Minister is waiting for to determine whether Mr. Bryan Sykes, Mr. Justice Bryan Sykes, should remain as Chief Justice? It really doesn't matter. It is the impudence, it is the impertinence, it is doing something which is absolutely infra-dig to the framers of our Constitution, which has led the learned jurists who occupy the Jamaican bench to withdraw their service for however brief a moment, to call for what they ask, clarification. Jamaica is not alone with trifling with the independence of the judiciary. We look at our great neighbor to the north, and how a judge rules is determined by which party they belong to. Perhaps their economy is large enough to afford it, and their society is complex enough to bear it, and their democracy long enough to withstand it. But we can't afford that kind of trifling. I join with all well-thinking Jamaicans to invite the Prime Minister before Ash Wednesday, when Lent begins, to appoint Mr. Justice Bryan Sykes as Chief Justice, so that he never has to look over his shoulder in the administration or in his ruling.